Manchester City are already planning for one of the biggest transitions in modern football history. After years of dominance under Pep Guardiola, the club is beginning to prepare for a future without the legendary manager on the touchline. Even though Guardiola recently extended his contract until June 2027, there are growing signs inside football circles that the Spanish coach could decide to bring his incredible era at the Etihad Stadium to an end sooner than many expected. His decision to renew his deal reportedly helped calm speculation and avoid constant pressure from the media. But behind the scenes, Manchester City's hierarchy is thinking carefully about what comes next. For nearly a decade, Guardiola has transformed Manchester City into a footballing machine. Under his leadership, the club has dominated English football, won multiple Premier League titles, conquered Europe, and built a reputation for playing some of the most beautiful and tactical football the sport has ever seen. Replacing a manager of that magnitude is almost impossible, but City believe they may have already identified the perfect successor. According to reports from journalist Jacob Steinberg, Manchester City's #1 target to replace Guardiola is Enzo Maresca. The Italian coach has emerged as one of the brightest tactical minds in European football, and his connection to Guardiola makes the story even more fascinating. Maresca previously worked as Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City, where he learned directly from one of the greatest managers in football history. During that period, he became deeply involved in the tactical structure that helped City dominate opponents week after week. Now, Manchester City reportedly sees Maresca as the ideal candidate to continue Guardiola's football philosophy without forcing the club into a complete tactical rebuild. Sources close to the situation suggest that conversations between City and Maresca have already been positive. The Italian coach is believed to be excited by the possibility of returning to the Etihad Stadium and succeeding the man who helped shape his managerial career. But before we continue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave your like so you never miss the latest football news, transfer updates, and behind-the-scenes stories from the biggest clubs in the world. The idea of Maresca becoming Guardiola's successor makes a lot of sense from Manchester City's perspective. Over the years, City's board has shown that continuity is extremely important to the club's long-term success. They do not want to completely reinvent the team every time a manager leaves. Instead, they prefer coaches who understand the identity of the club and can maintain the same style of possession football, positional play, and tactical discipline. Maresca fits that profile perfectly. His tactical approach has often been compared to Guardiola's methods. He values possession, intelligent movement, pressing high up the pitch, and controlling matches through technical superiority. Those ideas align perfectly with the philosophy Manchester City has built over the last several years. However, there is still uncertainty surrounding Guardiola's future. Some reports indicate that the emotional and physical demands of managing at the highest level may eventually push him toward taking a break from football. Guardiola has previously spoken openly about how exhausting football management can be, especially after spending so many years competing for every possible trophy. If Guardiola does leave at the end of the season or sometime before 2027, Manchester City will face enormous pressure to keep winning immediately. Expectations at the club are now incredibly high. Fans are used to seeing their team challenge for every trophy, and the ownership will want a smooth transition that avoids instability. At the same time, City are still fully focused on the current season. The team remains locked in another intense Premier League title race and has once again shown why they are considered one of the most relentless teams in football. After chasing down Arsenal with another incredible winning run, Manchester City managed to level the points at the top of the table and eventually take control of the title race. Now the club knows that the Premier League trophy is entirely in its own hands. If they continue winning, another title could soon be added to Guardiola's legendary collection. Ironically, this championship could become the final Premier League trophy of Guardiola's historic era at Manchester City. For many supporters, the thought of Guardiola leaving is difficult to imagine. He has become more than just a manager. He represents an entire footballing identity. But football always moves forward, and Manchester City knows it must be ready for the next chapter before the current one ends. Even though Manchester City appears confident about Enzo Maresca as their preferred candidate, there is one major obstacle standing in the way of the deal: Chelsea. According to reports published by The Guardian, Maresca still has contractual obligations connected to Chelsea, and this could seriously complicate Manchester City's plans. While City may want to move quickly if Guardiola decides to leave, the legal and contractual situation surrounding Maresca could delay or even completely block negotiations. Chelsea's involvement in the situation adds another layer of drama to an already fascinating story. The relationship between Chelsea and Manchester City has become increasingly competitive over recent years, especially in the transfer market and in battles for domestic titles. It is difficult to imagine Chelsea making things easy for one of their biggest rivals, especially if it means helping Manchester City secure the ideal replacement for Guardiola. If Chelsea decides to enforce the contractual terms connected to Maresca, Manchester City could be forced to explore alternative options. That would be a major setback because City's leadership reportedly views Maresca as the perfect continuation of Guardiola's football philosophy. This situation highlights how complicated modern football management has become. Clubs are no longer only fighting for players. They are also battling for coaches, tactical experts, analysts, and entire football structures. Hiring the right manager can define the success or failure of a club for years. For Maresca personally, the opportunity to return to Manchester City would likely be extremely tempting. Taking charge of one of the strongest squads in world football would instantly place him among the most important coaches in the game. Few managers ever receive the opportunity to inherit a team built to compete for every major trophy. Still, leaving a project connected to Chelsea would not be simple. The London club has invested heavily in building its future, spending enormous amounts of money on young talents and long-term development. Any move involving Maresca would almost certainly become one of the biggest managerial stories in European football. Meanwhile, Chelsea's struggles on the pitch continue to raise concerns among supporters. The club has suffered a difficult run of results in the Premier League, including multiple damaging defeats that have seriously hurt their hopes of qualifying for the next edition of the UEFA Champions League. Without Champions League football, Chelsea could face difficult decisions regarding the future of several important players. Financial pressure, expectations from ownership, and frustration from fans could all contribute to major changes at Stamford Bridge. That uncertainty may indirectly help Manchester City in another surprising way. If Chelsea fails to qualify for Europe's top competition, some of their biggest stars could become more open to leaving the club in search of more competitive environments. And that leads directly to another shocking story involving Manchester City and one of Chelsea's biggest stars. As Manchester City prepares for one of the most important transitions in the club's modern history, the leadership behind the scenes is already working on a long-term plan designed to guarantee that success continues long after Pep Guardiola eventually leaves the Etihad Stadium. The club understands that maintaining dominance at the highest level requires constant evolution, and that means preparing not only for a new manager but also for a new generation of superstar players capable of carrying Manchester City into the future. That is exactly why the growing links between Manchester City and Enzo Fernandez have created such massive attention across European football. The possibility of seeing one of Chelsea FC's biggest stars move to one of their direct Premier League rivals would send shockwaves throughout England. But for Manchester City, this is not simply about signing another talented player. This is about securing a midfielder who could become one of the central figures of the club's next era. While uncertainty continues to surround Guardiola's future and the possible arrival of Enzo Maresca as his successor, Manchester City is already making aggressive moves behind the scenes to strengthen the squad for the next era of dominance. One of the biggest and most surprising transfer stories coming out of England involves Chelsea star midfielder Enzo Fernandez. According to reports from The Athletic, Manchester City has officially entered the race to sign the Argentine international. The potential departure of Bernardo Silva at the end of the season has reportedly forced the club to search for a new midfield leader capable of maintaining the technical brilliance and tactical intelligence Guardiola demands from his players. Bernardo Silva has been one of the defining players of the Guardiola era. His intelligence on the ball, relentless pressing, versatility across multiple attacking and midfield roles, and ability to control the rhythm of high-pressure matches made him almost irreplaceable in some of Manchester City's most important victories. However, speculation surrounding his future continues to grow, with several European giants and clubs from Saudi Arabia reportedly monitoring his situation closely ahead of the summer transfer window. Because of that, Manchester City's board is already evaluating long-term replacements, and Enzo Fernandez appears to be one of the dream targets. The Argentine midfielder is viewed internally as a player who perfectly fits the club's philosophy. Since arriving in the Premier League, Fernandez has demonstrated exceptional vision, composure under pressure, progressive passing ability, and the kind of tactical discipline that could allow him to thrive in Guardiola's demanding system. At just 24 years old, he also represents the profile City increasingly values: elite-level talent with enough room for further development. Beyond his technical qualities, Fernandez also brings leadership experience despite his young age. After playing a key role in Argentina national football team's triumph at the 2022 FIFA World Cup, he established himself as one of the most respected young midfielders in world football. That winning mentality is something Manchester City believes could be crucial during a transitional period for the squad. Financially, however, any deal would be extremely complicated. Chelsea invested heavily to bring Fernandez to Stamford Bridge and would be reluctant to strengthen a direct rival unless an enormous offer arrived. Manchester City would likely need to present one of the biggest transfer packages of the summer to even open serious negotiations. Still, the interest itself sends a powerful message. Manchester City is not waiting for the end of an era to begin planning for the future. The club is already identifying the players capable of leading the next generation, and Enzo Fernandez may now be at the very top of that list.